Okay, do we
Like,
feel warmed up and ready to talk?
I think so. You tell me, am I warmed up enough?
I mean, you're the comedian and you're the actor, so I can't tell now if you're acting or just being.
No, no, I'm not acting, I promise. I mean, I'm on my best behavior.
I don't want that.
Give me like 30 minutes and maybe I'll, you know, misbehave.
Fair, fair. It's so funny you mentioned like the acting being beforehand, and I always likened it to the CIA, right? Like you don't have time to be on a mission and start to think about how am I going to act in this situation and what role will I put on? You just got to be, otherwise God knows what's going to happen. Not that I'm like endorsing the CIA or anything like that, but that's the mentality. Is like you just have to get in there and
Yeah,
shapeshift.
you can't you gotta be fully present in your body. If you get up in your head and you start overanalyzing and memorizing lines and stuff, then it's not natural. Same thing with stand-up.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out where to start, and thankfully, I kind of gave some cues into publicist GPT, and your publicist gave me some amazing talking points. And when I opened them up, I realized, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed. So good job to the publicist,
Good.
which is an underappreciated job. And there are way too, they're kind of like real estate agents, in my opinion. There's like way too many of them, and most of them are terrible. But when you find a really good one, they're insane.
I did not know that. He's my first experience with a publicist, so I guess I got lucky.
You did. I'm not saying that because I have anything to do with that person, but I've been around publicists for 20 years. When you have a website like mine, I'm getting about 300 to 500 pitches a day.
Oh, wow.
A day. That's not an exaggeration. I just crossed the 250,000 emails sent in my folder, in my sent box. So,
Wow.
putting in the reps. So you're a
Good
good
for
publicist.
you. That's amazing.
This is about you. Stop making this about me. Jesus, Jamie.
You're very impressive, sorry.
Okay, well, speaking of presses, this is where we're starting. This is the craziest shit in the world, and it'll probably take us 30 minutes just to talk about this.
Cool.
I might fuck it up, so let me just get through it.
Got it.
From working in a salon to doing makeup videos to switching to comedy to becoming a successful YouTuber to doing parodies to doing to making music for real to working with the best and of the best in Nashville to touring to acting to this podcast, obviously. That's the craziest arc. And my
Yeah.
question too is like when you hear that, is it still crazy to you or are you so used to it?
Both. Like, I have heard it several times and I've reflected on it several times, but it's still as soon as someone mentions that I used to do hair and makeup, I'm like, "Oh, yeah." It's like a little bit of a aha moment, like, it's so far removed from me that it almost feels like I dreamed it.
Mm.
But I know it happened. Very, very unique career path, it seems.
How much of the career path is intentional and I can see the finish line and I know what my path is versus I'm gonna let this thing lead me where it leads me.
Uh, what a great question. Again, it feels like both, like I started YouTube and I always hoped it would turn into something and I was very determined for it to grow. I didn't exactly know where that would lead though. I just knew it was going to get me out of the situation I was in. And slowly but surely when things started changing and more opportunities started coming to me, I'm realizing like this is kind of what I dreamed of as a kid.
Mm.
And so I'm going to keep saying yes, and some of it fell in my lap, and some of it I intentionally chased, but I'm happy to be where I am right now, and nothing against doing hair, but I don't know that I could ever go back to that.
Yeah, fair. Lots of yes and along the way.
That's a good way to describe it. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that, and what is that gonna lead to?" I'm kinda always looking for the next thing, I'm never satisfied.
Are you at a point in your career now where you have to start to turn down more than you say yes to because of the amount of opportunities?
No, I mean, I don't have to, I'm not just getting bombarded every day with things. I say no from time to time, but a lot of times, even when I try to say no, someone talks me into it because it's like, look, this is a really good opportunity. This could lead to this. You know, it would be weird to say no. So sometimes, like, people on my team have to explain to me how big of a deal something is.
Mm.
Mm. So I usually end up saying yes to most things.
This is not one of those cases, so you fucked up.
I love podcasts, like, this is my favorite thing to do, and I always, like, usually when I get the opportunity, I'm like, "Is it in person? Can we do it in person?" But I'm happy either way, but I like conversations and just, like, connecting with people and talking. It's, lower stakes and less stress than performing.
I mean, that's fair. Some people find this like the worst. My fiance is like, I don't want to be on camera. I can't even imagine what it's like. She when I met her, she couldn't even like call a pizza because that was terrifying.
Now that I actually do struggle with. I would rather
That,
do a stand-up show than make a phone call. I really
that's funny. Like, so help me understand that because I don't get it.
I don't either. I wish I knew. There's some sort of weird anxiety. In fact, it just happened today. I'm planning my friend's baby shower, and there's a balloon place I need to call. And I'm like, can I delegate this to someone else?" I asked the other girls in the group chat, like, "Can one of you guys call this balloon place?" I don't know where the phone anxiety comes from. Maybe just years of, like, everybody getting so comfortable with text messaging. I don't ever know when to get off the phone. I think getting off the phone is quite awkward, so I just avoid
Hmm.
it together.
So maybe it's more that you do well with the physical or the visual cues, and that way you know like when to end the conversation versus not, as opposed to on the phone you can't see that.
Yeah, and in person, it's so much easier, or even, like, comparing it to performing, my shows are structured, I have the
Mm.
clock, I know when my show's gonna end, I know what my cues are, everything is structured. Phone calls is a lot of just like, "Alright, okay, 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 bye," and you're talking over each other, and I don't know. I feel like I'm just slightly on the spectrum, and it gets to me for whatever reason.
So why don't we like go there for a second? Not the spectrum, but like the shows. It's such an interesting thing that I haven't even thought of before because we see things through a lens no matter what. You know, you just said, "Oh my God, publicist!" I had no idea, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's a no brainer." But it's because I've been in that world. I turn on Netflix, I'm watching Chappelle or something, and I'm like, "Man, that guy's incredible. He can just get up there and talk for an hour and a half, and like he's got all these jokes." We forget that there's so much structure and rehearsal and then things like a clock or a timer. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, I mean, you have to somehow remain present in your body, kinda like I was just talking about with acting, and not get too far up in your head, but also memorize your material, also know what parts of the show are coming next, also be mindful of the clock. There's a lot of, like, multitasking your brain has to do, and I think in the beginning, I really struggled with that. It made me in my head and, like, very regimented, and I was, like, reciting what I wrote word for word. And it took me a few shows to learn that if you can more so stick to bullet points and not necessarily rehearse all the material word for word, you can be a lot more present. I learned that I have some chops for like crowd work. I have some instincts when it comes to that, and oftentimes that part of the show is everybody's favorite part. And so
Mhm.
I started to relax, eventually, but it took getting up there and doing it to understand how to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it sounds like it's more structured than not. Like you're going in with a like a concert. You're going in with a set list, a performance, a general idea, and then sometimes you're interacting with the crowd. But then you're back to the set list and the performance, and then you know when you're supposed to get off stage. Is
Yeah.
comedy or stand up similar to the music world in that sense?
I am inexperienced in the music world with performing live. Like, a lot of my music has been in the studio or here in at my house, and when I do perform music during my stand-up, it's, like, comedic, like, I have a hate comment song, and I do parody songs and stuff. So, I don't know yet the answer to that, but I would imagine, I'm gonna default to what I know when I do start performing my music live, which is, like, keep it loose, don't be too regimented, but yes, eventually you have to stick to your set list and come back to your cues, you know?
Fair. Okay, so why don't we like we're not unpeeling the onion, we're kind of like dicing the onion, then peeling, and then like putting some parts back on. This is all over the place, which is amazing. Uh, this woman who's so comfortable and confident and doing things like stand up that I can't imagine doing yet. Uh, how did you become that person? You know, you're born in Missouri, I believe. You're
Yeah.
about was that in '89?
Yeah, 89.
So how did you grow up? How did you like get to be this boisterous person?
I've never heard that word used to describe me. Uh, Good question. I was always like a performer. I feel like comedy and music is genetic. Both my parents have, extremely intense and dirty senses of humor. Both my parents are musicians. My mom's a great singer, my dad's a guitar player. So a lot of that was inherited. My childhood was also extremely traumatic and very
Oh,
dark.
really?
Yeah, and, I think a lot of comedians, have a past like that. It's like we all have some weird dark backstory that, caused us to realize that humor was kind of a coping mechanism, so I feel like either way, I would have ended up a comedian somehow, um, based on just my genetics or my circumstances, and I remember when I was, like, 12, yeah, I was around my 12th birthday, my mom and stepdad got me a video camera, and, it was on after that. I was forcing all my friends and family to do weird sketches with me and make, movies, and I would write out entire scripts and storyboards and come up with characters, and that really sparked my love for, acting and video creation and performing. Getting into middle school and high school, I realized I had musical talent, and, I would do theater and the school musicals and choir and really, like, started developing my skill as a singer. And so it all just kinda I was on this trajectory where I'm thinking I'm gonna grow up to be some sort of performer, like, in the entertainment industry, but I kinda lost my confidence around, like, 17, 18, and just really kinda felt defeated, really overwhelmed, didn't know where I wanted to go to school. The thought of college was really overwhelming, and I was like, "I like playing with hair and makeup, I'm gonna go to beauty school." So I was on a path and the hair thing kinda, like, derailed me, and then
Yeah.
YouTube, I feel like, brought me back to my roots.
So you had a detour and you came back to it. Let me ask you, because I agree with you. I think that having been through a ton of stuff over the last few years, the only way out is through. How much of your life and the comedy and the stuff that you're doing now is still just a coping mechanism versus how much of it is what you love to do and you've gone through a healing?
I think I mean, I guess nobody can really say they're completely healed. I certainly have, like, moments where I still feel like I have baggage, but now this just feels like what I do and what I became good at in my home. It doesn't really feel like a coping mechanism for me anymore. Maybe my dark humor, like, my sister and I will make extremely offensive jokes about stuff that happened in our childhood. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's a coping mechanism or maybe that's just really who we are. It's tough to say, but I feel pretty healed at 37.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And I think sometimes, like in those darknesses where there is a light, the light isn't just a path out or a way out. It might become, a way forward to different things or better things.
Yeah.
Um, did you have like that dark humor and the penchant for comedy beforehand, or was it really like, I'm going through some heavy shit. I'm looking for stuff to pull onto, and this appeared?
It always came naturally. I always had the dark humor, and it was always very self-deprecating, and I do believe that the self-deprecating thing came from, like, wanting to be loved as a child and kinda trying to perform to, like, keep people around me happy,
Hmm.
but it just kinda stuck. Even after like I said, even after I got healed, it's like, I really like self-deprecating humor. I like when other comedians do it. I think it keeps people relatable. So, it feels quite natural now.
We'll come back to this more. What are things that you've done along the way to help with your healing journey? I'm always fascinated by the different things different people do, whether it's, yoga or therapy, or I've decided to climb up a mountain without any gear, whatever it is, it's fine. Do you have specific things that you did and or do?
Yeah, I mean, therapy is like the big obvious one, really talking things out and being very honest about how I feel to like a professional and getting some coping mechanisms. Actually, the first form of therapy I ever got as an adult was from a nutritionist, which is really fascinating to me. I remember signing up with her and thinking she was gonna teach me how to, like, lose weight and eat chicken and broccoli, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "Okay, let's talk about your people pleasing."
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't know if this is what I signed up for," but she was like, "People who struggle with their weight and struggle with what you're struggling with, it's, like, a very common personality trait is that you're people pleasing and you're putting yourself last, you know?" So she kind of became a lot more than a nutritionist, more like a life coach and really helped me start to focus on myself and take care of myself more than I was. And that's the other thing that's led to a lot of healing is self-care and like taking time for myself instead of sitting around kind of doing what everybody else wanted me to do.
That's wild. It's so funny that you're saying all this stuff because my business partner and one of my best friends is, I think he's around the same age as you. He might be a couple years older, but he's also a Gemini, and he is so similar. Like he's one of the smartest guys I know. I am the heart. He is the head. He is a writer and so dark. Literally, the book he's working on right now is called Torturer, and it's about like just this guy who is obsessed with torture and torturing things and people.
Wow.
Yes, from the calm, kind, loving mind of Lance Marwood
Mhm.
comes the torturer, but he's also self-deprecating. He loves dark humor, and he has got. I don't want to say he's low self-worth, but he's the first person to say, "No, no, no, it's okay. You don't have to praise me, and I don't want the praise." And are you like that too?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of imposter syndrome when someone really praises you, you're like, "Me? Like, have you seen me?" But over time, you just have to sort of receiving the gift honors the giver. And so when I started to look at it that way, it's become easier over time to, like, accept the praise and the compliment and just appreciate it. But it's not my natural instinct.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like that line though, and I'm definitely going to use that, and I'm going to send that to Lance after this is done.
I learned it from someone else, I can't remember whose, so I don't get the credit.
That's all good. This is the funny thing about the world that we're in and just the world in general is everything's been thought, said, done, created before.
Yeah.
It hasn't been thought, said, done, or created from us. And that's, in my opinion, what makes art really special and unique. Because, even if you look at a dumb example like Airbnb, Airbnb was something like the 20th company that did that. And they
Oh,
just happened to get the marketing right and the timing right and the money right or whatever it was. And then boom, they're successful. But so many companies had tried that beforehand.
wow. I didn't
So
know that. Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of that in my career, like, coming up with some creative thing that I think is funny, and then people swoop in and say, "You stole this idea," you know, and eventually, that was something I had to get over too, is, like, there is nothing original. All of us comedians tend to think similar things. I gotta just do what I'm gonna do.
yeah, from the heart. So when it comes to creating material, do you have a different process for comedic content versus your musical content now, or is it just the same type of inspiration?
Yeah, my process for comedy is definitely different. My process with comedy, um are you talking about stand-up or, like, on YouTube, like, my content?
Either one. Just you have so much going on. It's a little, you want me to list them all?
So many hats. Well, with stand-up, my process is always write down anything funny. That was the first tip I ever got. I saw it from a comedian on YouTube. I don't honestly remember who it was. But so I have a note in my notes app. Any funny idea I have, I write it down. Anything that kinda sounds or feels like a stand-up bit. If I'm just walking through a grocery store thinking about how much I hate, this, that, or the other, I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like a stand-up bit." I write it down. I go through, I look at which ones feel like they could be a bit, and I turn that into a bit. YouTube is a little different. It's like, what is going to appeal to my audience, entertain people, hold viewer retention. The first thing is always the topic. What am I going to talk about? And then when I find the right topic, it's quite easy to like write the script, make it funny, put my jokes in there. I brainstorm what kind of editing I'm going to do. And then I create the video. Music's a whole other part of my brain. It's like
Mm.
there's nothing really comedic about it. So I'll just kind of be thinking about what would make a good song idea? What real life thing have I experienced that I could actually put into something poetic and create a melody? And sometimes it comes out of thin air. And sometimes I have to intentionally be like, I'm going to write a song today and physically write things down. So I don't quite have as defined of a process for music.
Do you feel like they're completely different parts of your brain? Like, are you going more analytic and oh man, is it right brain? I can't remember if it's left brain. I think it's right brain is like math and whatnot, and left brain is art. Do you feel like they're coming from different quadrants?
That's a good question. Oh, no, I guess it's all the art side of the brain. Sometimes with YouTube, I do have to get a little bit analytical because I have to make sure it's gonna pay my bills,
Yeah.
and, like, perform well and make the brand happy if the brand is sponsoring it. Like, YouTube is where I have to get a little bit business, but stand-up and music are just, like, pure creativity.
Get the ideas when they strike you, you write them down, and then you expand on them from there.
Yeah, and I guess I just contradicted myself because I said music is a different part of the brain than comedy. So to clarify, it's like they're both artistic, but music, I'm not putting on my what's gonna be funny
Mhm.
hat. I'm trying to be as real and honest as I can, when it comes to music and comedy. It's like, how am I gonna make these people laugh, and how am I gonna keep the
Yeah.
crowd entertained and energized?
I think that what you did there is so important. It's so important to make mistakes, honor the mistakes. I do it so much that I feel like I make, how do I phrase this? Fuck up all the time. It's a good thing. Do not be scared of failure or making mistakes. My Lance and I have this saying, fail fast, fail hard. Like we believe that the faster we fail, the more we fail, the harder we fail, the closer we are to the big successes and breakthroughs. It's the 250,000 emails. I guarantee you the majority of those were a waste of time, or I said something wrong, or there was a misspelling or whatever. But it's doing all of them that leads to having done that much and learning. So I have this thing now, speaking of writing things down, I just came up with this thanks to my daughter, Libby. These aren't just love and logic. These aren't just loser. These are the losses. And the more losses in life that you have, the better because they lead to wins. They lead to W's.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. Like, you cannot if your whole entire path and your whole entire career was just flawless with no mistakes, I can't imagine how you would grow from that. And I'm very big on painting the mistake red, like
Yeah.
acknowledging it, like you said, honoring it, maybe even pointing it out. I remember I did a whole show, I think in Los Angeles with my fly down, and it was like, it's like, okay, I could sit there and be embarrassed and like turn away and make it weird, or just paint it red and make a joke out of it.
That's funny. So at what point do you pull out the book and say, never wear pants with flies again, or only wear flies and always have them down?
I never would have, learned from my mistake. I just kept wearing the same outfit, and it was my manager that was like, "We gotta get rid of these jeans, Jamie. I don't like the jeans." She's like, "Anything else?" I'm like, "Alright, I'm gonna go with the dress." It's less likely to go wrong, but I don't learn from my own mistakes very easily.
Not a bad thing. Or the worst thing. I don't know. Uh, Random note. So you are a Gemini, and apparently this year, astrologically, Aries, me, and Gemini, you, my business partner, Lance, are supposed to have the best years and also be going into a 7+ year period of just total awesome. Everything is awesome.
Wow.
So here's to amazing shit happening for us.
I'm not a zodiac gal. I've never really, like,
I am.
dabbled in it. I can tell. So I'm not gonna roast it or knock her or anything. Uh, but I've just never apart from when I was, like, 10 years old and I would read horoscopes in, like, Cosmo magazine, I don't pay attention to that, so that's news to me.
I did not learn this from Cosmo. I learned it from other venerable sources like YouTube.
Right, right.
Uh,
The University of YouTube.
exactly. Why don't we skip forward a second? Because you mentioned your manager, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Listen, if I get this wrong, it's your publicist's fault.
Okay.
3 agents in addition to your manager. Is that correct?
There should be 2 unless there's one I don't know about. I have, like, my theatrical agent that gets me, like, acting auditions, and then my booking agent who books my live shows. And then, yeah, I'm
See,
on
so
2.
I didn't get it wrong. They did. Fired. Jokes aside, like a team, super important. I'm a big believer in team. It's the more time you can offload and the more team you have to offload to, the more you can focus on the things that you need in growing the ship, right? Like a ship only gets bigger, and the amount of stuff you can do with that ship is if your crew gets bigger.
Yeah.
So for you so far, what are like the non negotiables in a team? Like if you had to have team members doing stuff, what are the things you're like, I can't believe with my career in the arts that I'm so lucky to have these people in my life, and I couldn't imagine doing without. Because
Oh,
it's different for every artist. I want to know what it is for you.
I I don't know. I've struggled most of my career with finding competent people. I've hired and paid a lot of people who ended up costing me more time in the long run, and so my
Mhm.
non-negotiable to answer your question is to just be competent. Please know more than me, like, please be more experienced in this field than I am to where I'm not teaching you or kind of carrying the situation. Uh, so the non-negotiable is just competence and reliability, and none of the things that my team does are anything that I could really do myself. I mean, I've booked I booked my first tour and, like, my first live show on my own, but I don't they kind of fell into my lap, like, I got approached by some companies via email. I don't know the first thing about actually continuing to do that on my own. The logistics of booking a show, my manager will, like, have tough conversations for me. Um, she's very all of my auditions that I do, like, as far as acting gigs, I show to her first, so she gives me notes on, like, my actual performance a lot of times. She gives me notes on my performance after my shows, and a lot of them have been invaluable to me. She's also just been a really good support system. And then same thing with Rob, my publicist. I don't know the first thing about getting myself press or, which which, like, news outlets would be good to for my career to do interviews with. He's the expert on all that. So all of them really have very valuable skills that I don't know the first thing about.
That's awesome, and it wasn't supposed to be a gotcha at all. It's I guess the thought process for me started with your team, and then I saw that you, from what I understand, are still very much involved in the video editing or the creative control of your stuff. And so I always find it fascinating to see what you need to do within your world and what you don't need to do. I know that I could do publicity to a certain level, but I'm also blessed to have worked with other publicists, to now have a publicist on my team here who can take that work, focus it or focus in on it because they enjoy it more than I do an amazing job with it, and then leave me that space and room to do other forms of creation or delegation or business work, whatever it is.
Mm.
You obviously want to keep that creative control tight. That's important to you. Are there other things that for you are like non-negotiables in the sense that you're not going to let anyone else touch it?
Yeah, I tried for a while to have editors on my videos, and I kinda learned that that doesn't really work for me as funny and, like, talented as they were. all of the back and forth. I'm very picky about all of my edits, and so, like, it was a lot of, like, leaving notes, like, "Trim this by 1/10 of a second, add this sound effect, can you actually delete this part or use the second take?" Like, I was so picky that it ended up just being more work for me, so I would say video editing is something that I kinda want complete control over. I definitely want full control over, like, my song lyrics or the jokes I make at my shows, like my stand-up material, really all of the creative stuff. I really want to be me, not because of some weird pride or anything, it's just it starts to feel like it's not me if it comes from someone else.
Yeah. And I think that you're kind of illustrating the point that I want to make is that because we work with so many different types of artists, whether it's authors or musicians that are at varying levels of upstart, excuse me. And there's this idea of music and business or art and business, and there's this small overlap. And yes, as a musician, you can do all the business stuff, no problem. But the more you spend time on that, the less you're spending time on the creation, on the art. And the idea is to find the overlap that works best for you and your band or your team or yourself if you're a solo project. It sounds like for you, a, a lot of, if not most of that business stuff, you have no problem letting go of. But anything that's creation adjacent, like editing or maybe YouTube, you want to control that because it falls into the realm that you enjoy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm so used to doing everything alone, like, I had my career for a good 8 years before I ever even had a manager, and so it was really hard for me at first to, like, let anything go. And when my manager would give me suggestions, like, about something I tweeted or anything, I would get a little defensive. I'm like, "Hold on a minute, I've been doing this a long time, like, this is my thing?" And so it took me a while to even, like, realize that 2 heads are better than 1 and there's power in collaboration. But also, I have this thing where I feel like I wish I could collaborate with more creators, and I hate that I'm always creating everything alone, and so, you know, that's been a whole journey for me.
So it sounds like publicity or marketing and branding, maybe someone as an advisor and or to hold up the mirror to say like, optically this is how these tweets are coming out. That's the stuff that for you is super important that you rely on the team to do.
I don't know if I understand your question, sorry.
All good. I was trying to come back full circle to the beginning, to the first question, which was like, what are the things that are indispensable for you as an artist? What parts of the team? And I was trying to say that those specific parts, like social media, publicity, branding, marketing, those are the things that you need them for sure.
Well, no, I'm, like, the branding and marketing, like, I have branded myself, I am, like, the sole promoter of everything apart from Rob, like, Rob will get me my, articles and stuff written about me, but, like, I have to plug everything in my YouTube videos and, like, I do a lot of self-promotion, and I'm definitely the one branding everything, like, I'm hiring the artists and the designers and giving my concept, I'm, like, directing my own photo shoots, etcetera, so I really delegate just, like, the parts that I literally don't have the skill to do, which is, like, press, booking, etcetera.
Fair. That makes sense. Simple and clean. Okay, let's change it up. We're going to go backwards now to a weird, different part of the onion. How'd you get into hair and makeup? And what was that world like for you? Who wakes up one day and says, I really want to make sure that Chris's coif is super tight?
Well, I was always, mildly interested in it. I loved, like, doing my friends' hair and makeup and stuff in high school, and I had a good vision for it. I could kinda tell when my friends would come in and, like, their eyebrows didn't match their hair, and I'd be like, "Hey, sister, let me help you out." And, just always kinda had a little bit of a knack for it, and, like most women, thought it was fun. And I remember getting my hair done by my hairdresser, Jessica, my senior year of high school, and just kinda lamenting to her about what I was gonna do with my life, because I didn't really think the entertainment industry was, like, was possible. I thought you had to come from LA and have rich parents and, or know someone in the industry, like, had to be a nepo baby. I never dreamed I could do entertainment, even though I wanted to, and so I was kinda talking to my hairdresser, and she was like, I don't know if you have any interest in this job, but I think you would be really good at it, and it doesn't feel like work." And that was kinda what sold me is when she said it doesn't feel like work, that it's fun and creative and artistic, and you're talking to people all day, and all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, that actually sounds right up my alley." And,
Mhm,
I knew I was very, very, unmotivated when it came to school. The thought of going to a university for 4 or 6 years just devastated me, homework devastated me, anything studious. And so the thought of learning a trade was much more appealing to me, and so I tried college for a little bit. I absolutely hated my life, and I was like, "I'm gonna revisit that idea of beauty school," and it worked well for me for a while.
and then you pivoted into YouTube, as
Yeah.
most people do. Um,
Everybody wants to now.
you just reminded me of a video. I'm pretty sure it was a guest on Rogan. I can't remember who it was. I don't know why Mel Gibson is coming to my mind, but someone was talking about this amazing idea of how we learn, because clearly there's a difference in someone who is like born creative thinking and who isn't. I'm not saying that all people can't be, creative, but if you're an artist, sometimes your brain's just wired differently and you learn differently, and school isn't like the approach. We learn in different ways.
Yeah.
Can't just smash all the information into our heads the same way. We learn in different ways.
Mhm.
What do you think of that thought?
I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I was just talking about this with someone, um, she was talking about her son and how he's struggling in school and, like, she's getting advice to medicate him, and I'm like, I just think that he learns differently, and some kids cannot sit there for 8 hours a day. It's actually quite unreasonable.
Hmm.
And I was 100% one of those kids, and I was put on medication at a young age for just, like, being so smart, but wouldn't apply themselves and wouldn't turn in homework and forgot
That's my
things.
report card.
Really?
Literally, he's so intelligent, or I shouldn't say so. He's very intelligent, but
Yeah.
won't apply himself. That was the word, won't apply himself.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't they know back then, maybe we should try a different approach with some of the kids? Like, oh my gosh, all the information that's out now about, like, ADHD or being on the spectrum or any of this stuff that, you can find on TikTok about that explains so many of our weird personality quirks. It's like, imagine if parents had had that information in the '90s. Instead of us being in trouble all the time,
Yeah.
we could have been accommodated and, like, nurtured for our learning styles. I get a little I get a little resentful sometimes when I think about, just the fact that that information wasn't readily available.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I mean, everyone learns differently. I have 4 kids in this house half the time, and they're all so different,
Yeah.
and, they learn different ways, and I have to parent different ways with them, and, "Why isn't this working?" "Your brothers and sisters understand what I'm saying," and they're like, "Yeah, but I'm not my brothers and sisters, and so for me, this doesn't make sense."
That is interesting, I never really thought about that, you have to have different parenting styles for different children.
I mean, it's like, especially when it comes to punishment, like when I say punishment, I don't mean like physical abuse. I mean, like you
Right.
did something shitty. You need to realize that what you did is not cool. And if you did this somewhere else, you'd get beat up or put in jail or whatever it is. But they take that information differently. Some of them feel more like, I don't know, maybe we're going to get back to the signs here, a little astrology. But it's almost like some of them take things more personally. Some of them feel more guilt for it. Some of them don't care at all. They're like,
Yeah.
whatever. It's so fascinating. And I have to constantly shapeshift to make sure that all the kids are being like covered equally well.
Wow. But, I mean, I think I really admire that because I know when I was growing up, it was like everybody got treated the same way, and there was no accommodation like that. So I think that's great personally. I mean, I'm not a parent, but that sounds like the right approach to me.
Yeah, going with the flow. I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit when we get into your album here, but just a random thought again. Is there any truth to that with like an audience and crowd work? Like when you go into a different city, different venue, whatever it is, do you then have to kind of almost shift your approach into how you're pitching your show or the delivery of the punchline or the crowd work based on the vibe that you're getting?
Oh, yeah, and you can usually tell by the way they cheer when you first walk out. I
Mm,
know immediately.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, I can immediately tell, is this a high energy crowd, a mid energy crowd, or a low energy crowd? And, the jokes stay the same, but, I will try and do a little bit more personable crowd work and try a little bit harder to warm them up if they're low energy, and sometimes I just harass them. Sometimes I'm like, "Are you guys awake?" You got the energy of the waiting room at the DMV, and usually if you roast people, they kinda warm up, but there's some crowds like Albuquerque, New Mexico was wild. Excuse me, and as soon as I got up there and start giving, like, my cold open, they're heckling me, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be interesting, like, can I divert my attention, and am I gonna be able to come back to my material and not forget where I am and not have to be like, 'Hold on, let me look at my notes,'" because they were so excited, to have a comedian there because nobody hardly ever comes there.
That's cool.
So that vibe, and then coming back to Nashville a few weeks later, I was like, "Are you guys alive? Like, I love you, but compared to Albuquerque, this is a whole different vibe." So definitely have to adapt a little bit while, staying true to yourself and your material.
Yeah, it's so funny. So you just spurred this other crazy thought. So a couple weeks ago, I spoke with Dowdy Fryer, who's a uh, Icelandic modern pop artist. He, I believe, did Eurovision, and if I'm not mistaken, finished fourth the year that he did it. He's got a track that just absolutely blew up, and I think it's somewhere between quarter billion to 300 million streams now, and he has had a fantastic story, really cool stuff. Recommend you check him out.
Yeah.
But because he's from, essentially the same areas, not area, is it latitude or longitude? I don't know. Same height of the world as Scandinavia. The people are so stoic, and you can't tell if they're happy or sad or miserable. I would
Oh,
wonder what it would be like taking the comedy show to a place like Finland or Sweden or Iceland, where you can't even tell if they're laughing, and then maybe the whole crowd is dead quiet, but at the end of the show, they're all like, "Oh my god, that was the
that's
funniest thing in the
amazing.
world."
Yeah, I would do it. I mean, what I've learned in my stand-up career is that bombing or people not laughing is not as scary as everybody thinks it's gonna be. You don't die. And I've bombed before, so I feel like I could handle it now, and yeah, if that's just their culture, then I would probably be able to not take it too personally.
So how, Ms. French, how do we take that idea and apply it to your phone phobia?
That I won't die? I don't know. It's been a struggle for so long. And even my friends and family, like, I have a friend I made here when I first moved to Nashville, Allison, she's a big phone talker, and, every time she calls me, I'm like, "Hello?" She's like, "I know you don't like talking on the phone." Like, "Well, I'm comfortable with you now." It's more of, like, business phone calls. I'll get over it probably in, like, 10 more years as I develop as a person.
Well, it's there's so much amazing stuff in that point. Is that you just said, don't be scared to bomb. Don't be scared to fail. We
Yeah.
talked about failure. We talked about the L's being the W. How did you continue to develop or improve that mindset? Was it just something that happened as your career progressed? Did you have to get over yourself in any way? Like, give some of the insight there for people that are aspiring to get to a level where you are.
Uh, I learned kind of the hard way. I think I was a little bit spoiled at the beginning of my career. My very first stand-up show was sold out, and it was people who already knew and loved me and watched me for so long, so I got to kind of skip the coming up as a comedian, doing open mic nights, trying out new material, doing 2 or 3-minute sets. Like, my very first stand-up show was an hour and a half. And so in some ways I was at an advantage, in others it was a disadvantage because these people had expectations for me. It was like, this girl makes me laugh online, she better make me laugh in real life. But it went so well and my first experience was so good that I kind of got used to that and didn't really think I ever would bomb. I was like, these people, we kinda already have a parasocial relationship, they already know me, there's no way they're gonna show up to my show and not laugh.
Mm.
So, it was a rude awakening for me the first time it happened, and the way I got through it was just because it happened. You have no choice. And so, the first time I ever feel like I bombed was in DC. It was one of the last stops on my first tour, and I could not get these people to laugh, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is what this feels like." I can hear the waitresses walking around, and I
Mm.
can hear this one person in the front left who's been the only one who's laughing, and just tried really hard to what I learned is that you just have to keep going and just act like you normally would, continue to give your best performance. I thought I learned from that, and then my first gig here in Nashville, I opened up for my friend Joel Berry, and I had never opened before, I had only headlined, and so they weren't my people, it wasn't my crowd, but him and I had done a lot of content together, and I thought, like, "They know me, uh, we have similar senses of humor, I'm sure they'll like me just as much as him," and they did not. And so, everything I thought I learned from my first bombing went out the window, it was like, the first time it happened, I was like, "Okay, stay present, continue your material, act as though you normally would." Second time I bombed, I just went right up into my head, and I was like, "I'm ruining this guy's show, I'm not warming up the crowd, I'm failing, I'm starting to forget my punchlines." I'm like, I had excuse me, I had a joke where I was supposed to get really physical and kinda do this impersonation, and I massively held back because all of a sudden I'm second guessing it, I'm like, "These people aren't laughing. I can't go full on with this." I totally got in my head, so even when you think you've learned from bombing, the next time you bomb, you might bomb different.
Mm.
So all I could really learn after that was that I didn't die and my career didn't end, and thankfully, I did not end up a meme on the internet. I easily could have, and I would have owned it. But you live and you learn. It took the wind out of my sails for a little bit, and then my next show went well, and so I was like, "Okay, that was an isolated event. It's not gonna happen every time. I don't suck." That's
It's
how.
the energy. I mean, you said again so many incredible things there that I've made some notes. Staying present. You said I just had to stay present. I mean, I have different ways in which I do it. For me, the easiest and biggest is just gratitude. When I appreciate gratitude, or sorry, when I practice gratitude and appreciate what I have, it immediately just pulls me in. And my kids might be freaking out and having the worst day ever, and then I can look at my partner and be like, she's so beautiful. I'm so lucky to have her,
Oh, I love
or,
that.
these kids, they might be pains in the asses, but when I'm watching a movie and they're cuddling on me on a couch and we're having a good time, like it's worth it.
Yeah.
What do you do in that moment to stay present? You can't sit there and picture a puppy, or do you?
Right. Uh, some of it is physical, like, I will try and feel my feet on the floor, feel the mic in my hand, just remember my body.
Mhm.
A lot of it is just saying, "Stay present, come back." Like, if someone from the crowd, let's say they're telling me kind of like a slightly long story, it's like, okay, I'm starting to be aware of how long this person's talking, I'm starting to be aware of the crowd losing interest, and I have to just, like sometimes I'm just like, come back," I say that to myself, um, really just trying to focus on people's faces, making eye contact with people is really helpful to stay present because then it feels like I'm talking to a person and I'm not, up in my head memorizing my material. I haven't tried the gratitude thing, but I think that might be a really good way to stay present, like, next time I'm on stage, just be like, "Wow, this is a blessing, I can't believe I'm here."
Yeah, like I'm so lucky to be on this. I wasn't
Oh,
implying that that's what you should do. I was just saying that works for me, but maybe like, I'm so lucky to be standing on this stage. So few people get to hold this mic, whatever it is.
yeah, I think that's a great method, and I can I'm a little bit of a glass half empty person, and I can sometimes lose sight of stuff like that because 'cause I'm so stressed or, like, focusing on doing a good job. That would probably be really useful. I like that.
I feel like true art comes from authentic places, and authentic places could be different for different people. It doesn't have to be from a place of happiness. It could be from deep depression, sadness, whatever is your reality. But it's when you embrace that reality fully, authentically, that the best art comes out. For me, it's typically positive. I try to be within love and positivity or gratitude. It makes me wonder, with this concept of bombing, whether it's a concert, people walking out, or a show, how much of it is just energy? Like, how much of it is you controlling your energy and your presence in the room and making sure that it's staying in a true, authentic form, and the crowd noticing that? And then when you deviate from that, whether it's oh, I lost my line, or oh, I fucked up, or oh, that guy pissed me off, that change is what gets the crowd turned. What do you think?
A lot of it is the performer's energy. Some of it is something as simple as the venue or the background music they played or how they announced you. There's certainly, like, environmental factors that can mess with the crowd's energy, but it's definitely, very largely affected by the performer, and like I said, that day that I opened for my friend and I bombed, I probably could have won them back, but I got in my own head, and they can sense when you're unsure of yourself and your energy's not coming out the same.
Well,
At first, I was very like, "It's this venue, it's awkward in here." They didn't even have background music playing when people were getting to their seats. They just came on the mic and, like, announced me. They didn't dim the lights. Like, it was almost like people weren't even ready for me to walk out. Like, I blamed all of these external factors, and then a week later, I watched the footage back. I'm like, "Yeah, but I coulda pulled him in a little bit better if I had stayed present."
there you go. It's as easy as that. So, no matter what kind of outside factors there are, it's important as the entertainer, as the leader of the room, so to speak, to be able to either um, overpower those or negate them, or even bring them into the energy of the show so that you continue maintaining command of the room and the audience.
Yeah, in hindsight, again, if I had just painted it red and been like, "Wow, well, this is awkward," or just, like, pointed out the things, like, it was really hard for me at first to I don't know how else to describe it, I don't mean to keep repeating it, but to be present. It's like, don't
Mhm.
focus on your material, adapt to exactly what this room is doing. And I wish I had, like, gotten really personal and talked specifically about that venue or that crowd, and I just stuck to my material and tried to get through it, but there's definitely ways, of circumventing if the venue's awkward or if the crowd's low, just make it personal, and that'll loosen them up.
I always found that, like, deflecting through something stupid worked. Maybe you need to bring back the fly and just have that as like a go-to, because people get awkward immediately. I remember in university, like I'd be smoking pot in the dorm room or something, and someone like would come and knock on the door, try to bust me down, and I'd say, "Sorry, I'm naked," which I wasn't. And they'd
Right.
immediately get all flustered and walk away. So maybe if you do the opposite and you're like, losing the crowd, you just start to play with your fly, they'll be like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah, or just
Change
walk
the
out
mood.
with it down, and I can always divert to that if it's not going well. That's a great idea. Have a
Okay, I know that you sat down about an hour ago and you're like, I cannot wait to dive into trauma and mental wellness and, all of that horrible, heady stuff. So
always.
we're going to, because we're going to talk about your album.
Perfect, I'm ready.
I would love to end with the music because that's kind of like the focal of what you're doing right now.
Yeah,
Um, this is a really, it seems like young and fun new venture in your career. And I think the music is great. Your voice is phenomenal. It
thank you.
translates extremely well. What is the ripple effect?
The ripple effect is kind of a body of work that showcases my experience with the ripple effect of someone else's choices, and the ripple effect,
Mm,
how one event can kind of ripple and for generations to come, and affect your children and your children's children and your children's children, unless, of course, someone breaks the cycle. And each song was kind of like a symptom of, my childhood and the what I was affected by standing in the wake of what happened to me. And the one track, Carry Me, is kind of like the redemptive happy ending of it all and how you can stop the ripple.
It seems like from the outside looking in that comedy has been a bit of a crutch and that music is now you embracing this fully and finally doing the full shed of whatever it is, or maybe not even a shed, just an acceptance of the generational trauma that I'm presuming befell you.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use the word crutch because it's still such a part of me even as I've become really healed like we talked about, but yeah, when I was in the throes of it all, uh, comedy brought me so much comfort and relief and was a distraction for what was going on around me. But yeah, the music part is really vulnerable because there's no comedy to
Mm.
hide behind, there's no laugh to kinda soften the blow, it's just right there out in the open, raw and real for everybody to see. It was scary to put out,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, I'm a real person, I can't just be fun and games all the time, you know?
100%. And I think that's a beautiful thought that, like, for you to be hidden behind a screen and behind a DSP is more vulnerable than you to be on stage and seen. That's a crazy mind trip. So are you the person then to end this trauma and to take a new path forward with your family?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't think I'm a better person than my parents or my parents' parents. I don't really know why I was able to recognize what was happening and stop the pattern, but I could trace what my dad did back to what his dad did, back to what like, it all made sense. And so when it got to me, it was just a no-brainer. It was like, "Well, I'm not gonna do that." And I
Mm,
remember so vividly what it was like to be a child, and I think a lot of, grown-ups or adults kind of forget as time goes on, and they'll just repeat what they know, but I remember
mhm.
so vividly that it's, like, very prevalent in my mind, like, I don't wanna put a kid through what I went through. So it
Yeah.
kinda just came naturally to me, thankfully, to, stop that cycle.
We can't necessarily blame because sometimes people don't know better. I remember one of my counselors, therapists, coaches, Barb, saying to me once, I was being defensive and I was saying, like, oh my God, and I shouldn't have done this. And I feel so horrible and I'm such an asshole and I feel so bad for the other person. And she stopped me and she said, dude, if you could have done better, you would have.
Mhm.
Because you're here talking about these things. The only way to avoid them would have to been so that is the point of healing and therapy and growth is to learn the things so that we don't do the same thing, so that we break the pattern, so that we do better. And it's not everyone can do that for everything. And I'm sure that I'm gonna do horrible stuff or make poor decisions in my lifetime until I learn about those specific things and do better with them. So it sounds like that's what you've been doing. Do you have, the grace and space in your life now for those people, like for to forgive them for whatever they've done?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was pretty forgiving immediately, like, even as a little kid. My dad went to prison when I was 9, 8 or 9, I can't
Mm,
remember the exact year, and, I remember just immediately, like, there wasn't even a time period where it was like, "I'm not gonna talk to you for a few years because 'cause I'm mad at you." It was just like, "Okay, I understand what happened. You made a bad choice. It wasn't my fault. Let's talk about it."
yeah.
So, I kinda have just been naturally forgiving, and certainly over the years, like, as you get older and you start seeing the effects of your childhood, I've certainly had moments of being resentful, maybe even, periods, maybe even year long or so periods, but I always, uh, I would always come back to forgiveness because, they say resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yep.
It's like not forgiving someone and resenting someone always affected me very negatively, so that was that was a little bit of a motivating factor to come back to is like, this is affecting me, not the person that I'm mad at, so forgiveness is just easier, and
Yeah.
I certainly want other people to forgive me for my mistakes, so that's been the path for me.
I think you said the key word there. It's the whole point of why I do this and why I enjoy spending time, with amazing people like you is just the conversation. We don't get better as a society. We don't reconnect. We don't get rid of top down control. We don't have like a cooperation, which is a coin, like a term that I have not used, but that I've coined. And I'm sure this is, we talked about this. I'm sure someone else has said it. I bet there's a book, but cooperation I coined one day. We don't get back to that until we just drop our fucking bullshit, drop our guards, and just talk. Because you don't have to agree with Jamie. You don't even have to like her. But you will learn and better yourself and increase your chances of being connected to someone by talking to them.
Yeah, and it should be always okay. It should always be okay for people to disagree. I was talking
Yeah.
about that with my personal trainer this morning. She had, like, a falling out with her friend over a minor disagreement, and I was like, "If you can't have real conversations and be honest about how you feel and air your grievances without losing a friendship, it probably wasn't a real friendship." And that's the nice thing about family is, like, you can have those real conversations, real disagreements, you can air out, "This is what you did, this is how I feel," and it's not likely that you're gonna have a falling out. Usually
Yeah.
your family is always gonna stick around.
Absolutely. And be honest, I'm going to use a real life example just quickly. So I have a woman that I work with, Jay Lang. She's an author up here. She's a brilliant woman. She's had a crazy, crazy life. And I hope that one day she shares her story. Um, she and I were chatting last Sunday through text or whatever. I'd asked her to do something and she was sending me information back. And I said, okay, well, this is inefficient and I know what to ask this person for this article. So I'm just going to ask them. She took it as me slighting her, like I don't need her or, that I was saying that what she was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
I got the answer that I needed because as someone who's been doing publishing for 20 years, I knew exactly like how to get that response. And so I picked up the phone. I said, I got it. We're all good. And she was visibly upset. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I'm pissed. And I said, okay, good. Tell me, like, why are you pissed? She said, I'm pissed at you. I said, okay, great. Like, why? Well, this, and this. I said, oh, okay. I totally understand how you could see that. This is what I intended. This is what we're trying to do. And then she said, oh, and guess what? Done.
Yeah.
That's the power of conversation. No issues, no resentment, no harboring, just fucking done. Move on.
But that's such a rare response, like, you saying, "Okay, you're mad at me? Let me know." That is so rare in my experience, like, it's kinda hard to be honest with people without someone's fragile ego getting in the way and, getting offended, and so I think that's a rare personality trait that you have that you
So we're
should
going to normalize it. We're
nurture.
going to
Yeah,
normalize it.
let's normalize that.
Yeah.
Let people be mad at you.
There you go. More content for your future bits. Let people be mad at you.
Yeah, and
Just
let people
just
talk
drop.
bad about you sometimes, say what they wanna say.
Yeah. Let down your fly.
Yes. That should be the name of my next tour.
Let down your fly. It's the guard. It's just let it down. Your fly is a little tight. You're being a little,
Yeah,
calm. Okay, so
pretty strong.
this is EP. It's out now. We've got some really powerful songs. The Hunter, for example, is about insomnia,
Yeah.
ties of blood, obviously blood relatives and whatnot. I'm really impressed. I think you need to keep going. It's beautiful work, and you're like the Bo Jackson, right? You're playing NFL and MLB at the same time. You're doing comedy, music at the same time. Keep going. Don't stop.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you so much.
I have one last question, and this is kudos again to your publicist. I thought this was such a fascinating one to end on because I always tried to talk mental health and mindset and tips and tricks, but also like industry. tips and tricks. I'm a creator. I'm getting into YouTube and podcasting, and I there's so much that I need to fail at to get better at it. And this was a fascinating question, including sponsor driven content and stuff like that. Uh, how do you go from comedy to YouTube to like all these different things and then now musician and not alienate a fan base? How do you include the fan base and keep growing it more and more? Um, is it hard? Is it easy? Give me some details.
The secret to that for me has always been getting personal and showing my fans who I am and telling real life stories and sharing bits of my life because when the audience loves you for who you are, it doesn't matter what you do. And I hear that feedback on a daily basis, like when I decided recently to start a second channel for my music. Um, I made, like, a little short video, and I was like, "When I post music on this channel, a lot of people get pissed and they unsubscribe because it's like, I signed up for comedy. Why are you posting music?" Another YouTuber who thinks they're a singer." And so many comments from these wonderful supportive people are like, "I don't care what you do. I love you. I would watch you watch paint dry." And so that is the secret for me is creating, like, almost a relationship with your fans to where they kinda trust that whatever you put out, they're gonna like because they know you. It's really similar to how it is in real life, like, if your friend starts a business, and he's a he w he creates ice sculptures, you might be like, "Well, I don't really need an ice sculpture, but you're my friend, so I'm gonna come to your grand opening, or I'm gonna check it out, or I'm gonna share it?" It's very, very similar to how, it should be on social medias. Uh, keep it personal and almost create like a friendship.
So follow the person, not the creation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Well, as the creator, you want to create that response from your audience. You want them to follow you for you and like you as a person. Not to like exclude what you're creating. I mean, if I was putting out terrible garbage, I wouldn't expect even my loyal followers to watch. But it's like grow that trust where they know you're not gonna put out garbage. And again, it's like getting personal, sharing things about my life. I used to do a lot of vlogging where I would just like take the camera around throughout my day and I would show my family members, and anything that really humanizes you
Hmm.
ends up creating that trust and like a bond. When I meet people in person, we have an immediate bond because they're like, I've watched you for 10 plus years. I feel like I know you. And
Hmm.
I didn't know that going into it. I was just being myself, but that has I think that is the reason for my success.
Yeah, good for you. Ironically, it comes full circle back to the beginning when I asked that question for Johnny from Art of Dying about like, what tip do you have for or advice do you have to an aspiring 11-year-old actor? And you said just be yourself, be present, be the role, don't act the role.
Yeah.
I agree that the person authentically creates something that represents them. It's an extension of them. It's a mirror of them, whatever it is, quirks, humor, dark humor, anger, seriousness, whatever it is, it should be wholeheartedly them. And then what the audience is seeing is an extension or a byproduct of the person. So if you're in your most natural, authentic state when you're creating, it sounds like the audience should have an easier time just connecting with the individual.
Yeah, and again, it's similar in real life. Like, let's say you had, both of your neighbors that started a landscaping business, and one of them was your close friend, and one of them you just met yesterday, and you need your landscaping done. You're gonna go with your friend. And
Hmm.
so you have to like find people have to choose you over all the other people who are doing the exact same type of content. And every year, the internet gets more and more saturated with content. Everybody's putting music out every 5 seconds. So why would anyone choose me over the zillions of other people that are doing it? And I think it's that
Yeah.
friendship and personability. I don't know if personability is a word, I feel like it is.
Well, it is now. You got a poetic license, you know, you can do whatever you want.
Trademark.
Um, I love that, and I think authenticity is kind of the number one thing that everything comes back to with this conversation, with this podcast in general.
Yeah.
You have to do you at the end of the day, and we talked about this earlier. If you are doing something from your tone and your voice, it doesn't matter if it's done before because someone will hear it better or receive it better coming from you.
Yeah.
Your friend might have listened to 100 self-help tapes and he's like, I just can't do it. And then you're like, hey, bud, have you tried this? And they're like, oh, I've never thought of it like that. Thanks for letting me know. So same thing with art, same thing with music. I've never been into punk. And then all of a sudden I heard that band and the way they did that one time. And all of a sudden you're like, I love punk. And then you know, wormhole into the rest of it.
That's
So
so
be true to
true.
yourself.
That's a
Yeah.
good analogy.
Be true to yourself. All
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think that you and I could probably talk for another 3 hours. So let's just do that. I'm joking. Do me a favor. I like you to have the last word. So I want you to do the French advice. Put something in other people's pockets that they can take away with and better their lives. What is the final word?
The final word is whatever you want to do in life, start doing it before you're ready. Don't wait to get all your ducks in a row. Don't wait until you have someone else's permission. Don't wait until you're not nervous anymore because you're always going to be nervous. Just start before you're ready and learn as you go.